Last week I challenged our people in our church to consider going on a media fast. And there was a groan in the congregation as if I asked them, to burn their houses down. They said, Pastor, I'd as soon as done without food than I can media. And we had about 6 people who said they would do it and did it through the whole week. And being without media, try just for 1 week to shut the radio, shut the TV off. I got every job done around my house in 1 week. I have a list of manuals where my staple saw and my grass cutter and all the things they were scattered all over the house. They're now in perfect file. I've been wanting to do that for 18 years. 1 week off media could actually transform your family. And we have watched the media. 50 years ago, there were about 250 different major media outlets who controlled newspapers, radio stations, TV stations. When our generals returned from World War II, and they told Congress how Hitler totally mesmerized the country because he shut off all outside forms of media and totally controlled all of it and began to mesmerize the people until they believed what he said was the gospel and everything else was false. 250. So they came back and they told Congress, you must pass laws so no one company can own a radio station and a TV station and a newspaper or a magazine in any one city. Well, then they undid all of these antitrust laws. So it went from 250 to 50 about 20 years ago, and today there are about 3 major media outlets that control all of the major newspapers, all the TV stations, all the radios, and Hollywood. We've allowed them to break the antitrust laws, and we don't watch the news, we watch propaganda. And it is feeding the destruction of the family. I have challenged people, find me one TV program, find me one movie, or even a TV commercial where men are actually good, decent people. I challenge you. And when you topple the man, it's not long before the door is now opened and the family can be destroyed. And so we have watched the destruction of the family through the media. And although it's nice to know that we do have 1 or 2 conservative media outlets, I do not trust them. Because the way you turn a herd of stampeding cattle is you get out in front of them and then you turn the herd. My friend Laszlo will tell you, in communist countries, the leader of the uprising is usually a communist agent trying to turn things around. And so I don't trust them, although I listen and I read and I think. And I talk to other people who are readers and thinkers, and together I feel we arrive at the truth better than reaching out and listening to pre-digested pablum from the media. I do not need them. I'll look for myself. Thirdly, we will decide people into hostile groups, constantly harping on controversial issues of little national importance. Is there anything that anyone could agree on in this room about anything except the Cubs have been rebuilding for 100 years? Is there anything out there that we could agree on? And everyone has an opinion. Opinions are like belly buttons. Everyone has one. They're all different. Some are inners, some are outers, but they're not the same. And it's hard to find people to agree on anything because now we have exalted opinions above common sense and truth. And logic, reason have gone out the window. Everything is how I feel, because feelings, nothing more than feelings, have corrupted our society to where we don't think anymore. And trying to engage people in an intelligent conversation today is a difficult thing to do. Once you get past the weather and sports, you can run out of things to talk about. So dividing people into hostile groups. I have never seen in my 29 years in Chicago such division in everything imaginable. I think we've come a long ways in race relations. And yet today I find they're fomenting every kind of controversial issue imaginable, trying to divide us. We need to find some things that we can agree on. The 912 perhaps is a way to go, values and standards and morals. Number 4, destroy people's faith in national leaders by holding them up to contempt and constant ridicule. The popularity of Congress is almost single digit. I think it's 12%. And they complain about presidents who weren't popular, Congress is as low as anyone I can imagine. Used car salesmen would be an upgrade for Congress. And it boggles my mind that they can, in front of everyone, hand out hundreds of $millions to congressmen to pass a particular bill, and no one is in jail. And that people openly stopped investigation of Freddie Mac and Fannie Mae while they were getting sweetheart deals and loans at no interest. And they're not in jail. And so the idea of holding leaders up to ridicule, there was a time when they used to be called statesmen. Today they're called politicians. And I can't think of a lower term you could have. You dirty politician. Well, that's hitting below the belt, isn't it? Number 5, always preach tolerance and democracy, but seize power as fast and ruthlessly as possible. ACLU, which is a communist organization started by communists, run by communists, financed by communists, and that we give the media press. And they will file a lawsuit against anybody for anything except for Christians who want to hold up moral values. And the ACLU and many, many other organizations are basically flying under the radar, trying to pass themselves off as if they're trying to promote freedom, and yet they are seizing power as ruthlessly as possible. And they're saying, we don't want Christians forcing their way of life on us. Well, if it was true, you wouldn't be able to say what you just said. The fact that wherever Christians are, there is freedom and liberty, because we believe in our God, and we give you freedom to believe in whatever you want to believe. But when they take power, they do not let you believe in what we want to believe. And they become restrictive, and they try to take away our freedoms. Number 6, by encouraging government extravagances, this is 1919, destroy its credit, produce fear of inflation and increasing prices with general discontent for the masses. And what they will use is they will use general discontent, because there's a lot of it today, and they will use it to direct people in the way that they want you to go, and like a bunch of cattle, lead you in the path right to the stockyards. Our country is losing its prestige financially, and if we lose our currency as being the national or the world standard, we can watch inflation and destruction of everything you have. The 401 could be a 101, or it could be worthless, because dollar bills could end up like the Deutschmark during World War I. Could become utterly worthless. And we need to see our, as Sheila said, get back to paying our bills. How foundational can you be? Number 7, promote strikes in vital industries, encourage and foster lenient attitudes by government toward such disorders. We lived through the 50s and 60s. We saw strikes. We saw the building up of unions. And we find out today that unions are now controlling politicians. And now with the latest Supreme Court ruling just last week, they can give any amount of money they want to politicians. So literally they can buy your own politician. You imagine personally, you too can buy a politician. And you can get all the legislation you want that will be favorable to you. We watch Big Pharma, we've watched big agribusiness, and we've watched all the other businesses twist and turn every law imaginable. Last year, the IRS had 10,000 changes in the IRS code. That's just last year. And guess what those were for? They were to exclude certain groups from certain forms of taxes. And look what happened in Nebraska, and we won't go down that road, but it's an ugly road. Number 8, by constant argument, cause the breakdown of moral virtues, honesty, sobriety, self-control, and disciplines and faith in the pledged word. Every one of those congressmen, and if you want to go to Google it, you can Google it, you can read the pledge that they took, an oath, a sacred oath, which used to be something that was important. Today means nothing. They took an oath to protect and defend the Constitution of the United States of America against all enemies, foreign and domestic. All of our military took that oath, and I pray that they will keep their oath. All police officers. And before I went into the ministry, I was a fireman. And I took an oath to defend the Constitution. I think, I'm fighting fires. What am I doing taking an oath about the Constitution? Because whoever it was who started this understood that all of our civic leaders need to take an oath to something higher than themselves. And then, of course, cheating in college, cheating in school is just, it's rampant. And cheating